Christmas. Welcome to Trinity Place. My name is Cameron Miller, and this is a sermon for Christmas Eve. So right here, right now, is the eye of the Christmas storm. I love it when we get to Christmas Eve and we get to be here. Here's what I mean. According to the Pew Research, 96% of Americans celebrate Christmas. Not 96% of Christians, but 96% of people, whether or not they feel any affinity with the religion, or any religion for that matter. 32% of Jews decorate a Christmas tree, and more than 75% of American Buddhists and Hindus celebrate Christmas. So less than half of those who observe Christmas see it as primarily a religious event, or their religious event. I love that we still have something that so many people in the culture share, a sort of common ritual of a kind. I just wish that I could tell everyone that underneath this grand secularized holiday, there is a secret of sorts that's hidden here in plain sight. And it isn't even really about Jesus. The Jesus story points to it, and it reveals it even. But it's not about Jesus, it's about God. But I've gotten way ahead of myself, about 35 years ahead of myself. So let me back up for a minute. When I was a new dad, I would marvel that my parents or Katie's mom would say that they couldn't remember something that we would ask them about when we were small children. Perhaps we were trying to fill the gaps of our knowledge as new parents, I don't know. But sometimes, about some things, they would say they couldn't remember. And I can remember thinking to myself, how could you forget something like that? As a new parent, I thought I'd remember everything, but zoom 30 years later, and what I don't remember would fill an ocean. But there is something I do remember, and it's lodged in my brain like a knot in wood. In part, perhaps because I had a refresher with my grandsons within the last few years. But it's an experience, it's that experience of rocking a baby in my arms, her or him sleeping as I peer down in my chest and watch that little puffy, puckered face and hear that snuffly breathing from a sleeping baby. A baby's presence is powerful. Whether it's quiet like that or screaming, the presence of a baby demands that attention must be paid. But in those afternoons or late at night, rocking the baby back and forth, and softly singing sometimes, pretty soon that baby's presence, that powerful presence, would pull me in. Now you may remember what that feels like when you become present only in that moment, only in that time, only on that spot. All else gets obliterated, even if only for a moment. Being totally present in that moment. There are many ways that can happen, that total presence. Another less idyllic example or version, one I may have mentioned before, was when I was a chaplain intern in New England Deaconess Hospital. For several weeks that summer, I was called upon to sit with a young man who was about my age at the time, who had been burned over much of his body. He was in some kind of hyperbaric oxygen treatment. And he couldn't talk well. Only a few words here or there. So my job was to go sit with him. Just sit with him for a while every day. Just to be present. He was in agony, of course. And there was nothing that I could do for him except sit there, be present. Is it okay for me to sit for a while, I would ask. And he would gesture the best he could in a way that welcomed me to do so. Well, rocking a baby pulled me into simple presence. I had to work at being present to this young man that I sat with. The baby too, if I'm honest, it isn't easy anytime or in any way to simply be with someone and do nothing. Random thoughts begin to cloud the brain, call to us about things done and left undone, and rain down emotions that splatter and wiggle and writhe. But learning to simply be present, to be present in the presence of suffering, or even when we are just tired or anxious or otherwise distracted, any of that takes a lot of effort and discipline and practice. Simple presence, being present with us, is what Christmas is about. If Christmas was a book title, its subtitle would be God Makes It In. The story of Christmas, God makes it in. Did you ever have the experience of God slipping into your grief? Did that ever happen to you? Maybe it did and you didn't think about it as God. And maybe it didn't even feel good at the time, but you look back now and are grateful for it. I'm talking about a dark moment of loss, or a shattering moment of powerlessness, or a moment of so anxious you wanted to just jump out of your skin. Those kinds of moments I'm talking about. And in such moments, when you don't think that you can take it anymore, something or someone happens. And you realize you can take it. And you realize you have taken it. And then there is some kind of way forward. Well, that someone or that something that gave you a hand to hold or a sliver of light to hope forward may have been mere serendipity or may have been a gift. We don't get to actually know for sure. But in those moments of despair, of shattering grief, of deep, dark depression, when we felt overwhelmed or powerless, we were empowered. We were empowered. We were given something or felt something or heard something that moved us. Something entered into the darkness and empowered us. And then we made it all the way to Christmas Eve, to this nest of community where we know people who love us. I'm not saying that we get rescued or that we get saved from every and all hazardous situations. That would be pure fantasy. And in fact, there will come a time when we no longer go forward. We know that. It's a condition we call life. It ends. Yeah. But I like to think that death is the mirror image of birth. That in that manger, God slipped into life, and in the manger of death, we slip into God. I like to trust my experience like that. Because when somebody asks me to believe something that I have never witnessed or experienced for myself, I just cannot do that. I don't necessarily reject what I've not experienced out of hand. I mostly just remain agnostic about it, as in, I don't know. But so far in my life, my experience is that God slips in somehow, sometime, some way. And sometimes I don't even recognize it in the moment or until much later looking back. But those experiences make me trust God unto death, trust God unto life and rebirth. God slips into life, and eventually we all slip into God. That is the Jesus story, seems to me anyway, taken as a whole. Christmas Eve to the night before he died for us, to the afternoon of Good Friday, to the morning of Easter, all one seamless story. There's even an Episcopal prayer that says something like that, from the hard wood of the manger to the rough wood of the cross, or something. Anyway, God slips into life to be present with us, even if there's nothing to be done to change our situation. And we know, as the saying goes, the difference between pain and suffering is that suffering is pain endured in isolation. When we endure pain all by ourselves and let no one know or have nobody to know, then the pain grows into suffering. And it's almost miraculous what a difference it makes to open the door of our pain so that people who care about us can come in and be with us. Like I said, in the moment it may not jump out at us, but over the length of days or looking back, we will see and we will know what a difference it made to have someone present with us, to not be enduring our pain in isolation. Now, I do not for a minute believe that God was absent before Jesus was born and died. But in that story, a story that was given to us, we have it revealed. Our eyes were opened in a new way, and we could see something that was always there. God is with us. And God's presence with us is so pervasive in this life that when we experience it, and even when we don't, its pervasiveness causes me to imagine that there cannot be a time, nor a place, nor a realm, nor an orbit, nor a dimension, nor a black hole, nor a death, where God is not also present. God slips into life, and we slip into God. Merry Christmas. Peace be with you.